Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie Turning Red, released in 2022, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, spring's first cherry blossoms drift like confetti across the streets, carpeting sidewalks in pale pinks and whites. Amid this gentle frenzy of petals and possibility lives a young girl whose world is stitched together with friendship bracelets, secret journals, and the comforting hum of her mother's home-cooked meals. She moves through her daily routine with the eager precision of early adolescence, texting her best friends, perfecting the choreography to her favorite boy band's latest hit, and counting down the days to her school's annual cultural festival. But beneath the tip-tap of her phone and the swirl of student life, a surprising truth stirs, a family legacy that will bloom in the most unexpected way. This is the story of a girl whose life tilts on the axis of the extraordinary. Her world is one of homework assignments crumpled beneath her bed, heart-roaring first crushes scribbled in blue ink, and the all-consuming comfort of mother-daughter rituals. Each morning begins with the same warm routine, the steam of a freshly brewed jasmine tea, the scraping of wooden chopsticks against her favorite rice bowl, and her mother's gentle reminder to be the best you can be today. As she ties her shoelaces and straightens her school uniform, she carries with her the unspoken expectations of her family's proud heritage, one of tradition, discipline, and unyielding love. But tradition sometimes pulls against the wild currents of change. As the days count down to the spring festival, strange sensations ripple through her, an odd flush of heat, a sudden surge of energy, and a curious tingling that seems to pulse through her bones. It begins when she hugs her mother goodbye one morning, and instead of a warm embrace, she feels a low rumble beneath her ribcage. She blinks, and for an instant, the world tilts. Her arms feel heavy, her vision narrows, and a soft, reddish glow flickers at the corners of her sight. She dismisses it as imagination, the residue of last night's vivid dreams, but later that day, when she stands in front of her bedroom mirror, she sees the truth reflected back, rounded ears, a button nose dusted with fur, and eyes alight with both confusion and wonder. She has become something she never imagined, a giant red panda. Imagine the rush of disbelief as she navigates the hallways of her middle school, tail brushing lockers, paws too large for her slender arms, for coating her uniform in soft tufts. At first, panic flares. What will her friends think? How will she explain this impossibility? She learns quickly to duck into empty classrooms when the heat rises, to slip behind the gym curtain and curl into a ball that looks like an elaborately wrapped beanbag. She texts her two best friends frantic emojis, and they respond with a blend of horror and awe, urging her to keep this huge secret, while they frantically search the internet for very specific but totally not real silver linings. Her home, once a sanctuary of routine, transforms into a stage of gentle chaos. Her mother notices the disappearance of chopsticks that don't fit in the dishwasher, the small puddles of spilled tea where paws once thudded, and her daughter's sudden aversion to hugs. Yet, in the evening's soft lantern light, mother and daughter find themselves in a delicate dance of understanding, a silent acknowledgement that love must stretch to hold even the wildest surprises. At dinner, bowls are set with extra care, chopsticks rest on padded mats, and the meal begins with a toast to adaptability, served with a side of warming soup that soothes more than hunger. School becomes a gauntlet of near misses and concealed thrills. In art class, she nearly tears a canvas with a stray tuft of fur. In gym, her teacher's puzzled gaze follows the way her running shoes struggle to contain her paws. Yet, amid the scramble, moments of magic flicker through ordinary days, a stray panda tail weaving through a few rings of cherry blossom-laden branches, laughter that erupts when she and her friends exchange whispered giggles over her unexpected growth spurt. While her peers chase the next pop sensation, she chases the narrow corridor of possibility between fear and freedom, determined to master both pad and paw. Beneath the surface of fur and teenage turmoil lies a deeper current, the pull of heritage, the inheritance of power that links her to generations of women before her. At the grand matriarch's shrine, hidden in the attic's dusty rafters, she discovers scrolls inscribed with ancestral wisdom, stories of ancient guardians who took the form of red pandas to protect their community. As she traces her fingers over the curling calligraphy, she realizes her transformation is not a curse but a calling. Yet, the weight of such a legacy draws tight as no fur ever could. Can a single girl, with all the awkward wonders of adolescence, rise to meet expectations etched in history? And so the festival approaches, petals swirling like confetti across the courtyard of her school's grand stage. The evening air hums with the sound of drums and flutes, lanterns glowing like suspended fireflies, and crowds gathering to celebrate their shared tapestry of culture. With her two best friends by her side, one clutching a hastily repainted fan to hide smudges of fur, they guide her to the back of the stage, hearts hammering with anticipation. She can feel the pulse of the crowd, the sway of excitement that ripples through the audience. This is the moment when tradition and transformation collide. As she steps into the lantern-lit circle, the heat rises and the magic stirs. In front of her, the matriarch, her devoted grandmother, stands with eyes that glimmer in the lantern glow, recognizing the spark of destiny in her granddaughter's transformed gaze. A hush falls, and for a heartbeat, time stops. Then, with a grace that belies her new form, she lifts her paws and begins a dance that blends ancient ritual with modern beat, a swirl of red fur and human grace, a symphony of identity weaving together who she is and who she's bound to become. The crowd gasps, the drums roar, and her heart soars higher than cherry blossoms in gale wind. But every celebration hides its undercurrent of doubt. As she twirls, she senses a ripple of unease in her grandmother's eyes, an unspoken fear that the legacy may demand more than one girl can offer. Somewhere among the lanterns, a rival guardian spirit stirs, drawn by the resonance of power once locked away. In the swirling glow, a shadow flickers behind the lantern light, a reminder that not all forces that yield transformation wish her well. The festival's jubilant notes shift to a minor key, and she catches a glimpse of potential peril, ancient powers awakened by her first steps in fur. Outside, the school courtyard blossoms into a pastel dream. CGI petals swirl in slow motion, each one more elaborate than the last, as if the very air has been painted with watercolor. The animators layered multiple particle effects, real cherry blossom scans overlaid with hand-drawn highlights, to create a flock of petals that respond to each character's movement. Wide aerial shots show May and her friends beneath a canopy of pink, the ground a tapestry of blossoms that crackle underfoot like confetti. These sequences heighten every emotion: wonder, anxiety, and the bittersweet thrill of change. The petals become a character unto themselves, dancing around May's head as she experiences first crushes, first pangs of fear, and the first tremors of her panda power. In art class, the gray expanse of a creative studio is defined by its cool neutrals: white walls, exposed pipes, concrete floors, an intentional contrast to the riot of color elsewhere. Sunlight filters through skylights in diamond patterns, the light design crafting geometric pools of illumination where May sketches her transformations. The cinematography employs a muted palette here, drawing focus to the vivid reds and oranges in her drawings, a visual echo of the panda's fur. When May's fur first sprouts over her pastel drawings, the camera cuts to macro close-ups, fur fibers rendered in exquisite detail, each strand catching light like spun silk, to remind us that fantasy must feel tactile. These textures resonate with audiences, many of whom describe a tingling sense of realism despite the animation, a testament to the filmmaker's mastery of visual craft. Night scenes unfold on the rooftops of May's neighborhood, where old brick chimneys mingle with satellite dishes, and the city skyline shimmers beyond. The lighting design here is a melange of practical beacons, lamp posts, neon signs, distant apartment windows, and carefully placed LED strips to sculpt each terrace and fire escape. Aerial drone shots hover above this urban canyon, the wind whipping cherry petals into swirls of silhouette against the starless sky. In these shots, May's red panda form is lit from below, capturing the underglow of transformation, while cooler moonlight washes across the scene to underscore the uncanny hush of midnight. These choices craft an atmosphere of both magic and isolation, reminding viewers how secret the night can feel even in the heart of a teeming city. The cultural festival's grand stage bursts into a kaleidoscope of color and movement. Lanterns, pink, orange, and white, drip down from the rafters in long strands, each one glowing with its own internal LED that pulses in time with the music. The camera tracks across performers in motion capture costumes, the fabrics catching spotlights that shift from warm amber to icy blue in time with the score. These dynamic lighting changes reflect the emotional stakes. Excitement surges in vibrant hues, uncertainty dims into cooler tones, and the crescendo of transformation arrives bathed in sudden red, May's true colors on full display. The dance choreography, shot with a mix of Steadicam and crane, sweeps in wide arcs, then punctuates the chaos with handheld tight shots that capture every gasp, every shiver of fur, every defiant, triumphant smile. Throughout, the film's use of depth layering, combining 2D hand-drawn textures with 3D environments, creates a unique visual language. Backgrounds are richly detailed with painted effects, subtle brushstrokes in the cloudscapes, gentle gradients in the dusk sky, and flecks of pollen drifting through sunlit passes. Foreground characters, meanwhile, move on separate animation layers, their outlines crisp and tactile. This approach allows the world to feel both handcrafted and fully dimensional, a living diorama in which May's journey unfolds. Critics have noted this blending as a landmark in modern animation, marrying the warmth of traditional illustration with the depth of digital artistry. Color grading emerges as a silent storyteller. Scenes of domestic warmth favor a palette of pink and gold, turning every meal shared into a tableau of familial intimacy. School sequences adopt cooler blues and grays to evoke the constriction of conformity. Transformation moments explode into reds and oranges that feel almost too bright for reality, emphasizing the rift between human and panda. In dawn and dusk sequences, time-lapse shots of clouds racing across the sky, subtle gradients of lavender and peach trace the passage of time and the cadence of May's emotional arc. These carefully calibrated color shifts guide the audience's mood, weaving subliminal threads that bind us to May's inner world. Sound design operates as a counterpart to these visual cues. In the shrine, ambient echoes of dripping water and distant bells lend a sense of age and mystery. In the home, the clatter of chopsticks and the hiss of steaming rice pots feel tactile and purposeful. School corridors are alive with muted footsteps and locker clicks that swell into white noise, a reminder of adolescence's constant undercurrent of chaos. Festival scenes layer recorded vocals of cheering crowds with synthesized beats, creating a dynamic bridge between diegetic and non-diegetic sound. And May's panda squeals, crafted from childhood recordings and animal archives, punctuate moments of transformation with visceral punch. Each layer of sound works in tandem with lighting and camera to craft an immersive soundscape that carries viewers through every heartbeat of May's story. In the final moments, the film's settings converge. The attic shrine's warmth dissolves into the festival's bright lights, the city's hush deepens into the proud roar of family embrace. The cinematography pulls back to a wide shot of the festival courtyard, petals swirling at May's feet like snowdrifts, lanterns floating above like constellations. Through the lens flare of spotlights and the gentle haze of festoon lighting, we glimpse every thread of setting woven into the story's tapestry. Home, school, shrine, festival, forest, and sky. It is here, in the interplay of light, color, sound, and space, that the film's atmosphere finds its fullest voice, a symphony of place that elevates every emotional beat, crafting a world where magic and memory, tradition and transformation dance together beneath a rain of cherry blossoms. They slipped onto the Vancouver studio lot just as the first streetlights blinked out, steam rising from the pavement as midnight crews folded up tents and the smell of rain-damp air mingled with fresh paint. Even at that hour, the kitchen trailer glowed warmly, and the scent of congee drifting through the doors guided bleary-eyed artists straight to a buffet of bowls, hoping for a taste of May's home. Yet the catering team had added a playful twist. Small porcelain bowls stamped with MEI in pink glaze, each accompanied by miniature panda-shaped pastries. The moment a sleepy storyboard artist bit into one, their grogginess vanished in peals of laughter. One pastry erupted with sweet red bean filling, another oozed strawberry, mirroring the film's blend of expectation and surprise. In a sudden crescendo, the lanterns flicker out, plunging the stage into a momentary blackness. In that void, she feels both the legacy's embrace and its tightening grip. The hush stretches, pregnant with possibility. Then, as if in answer, the lanterns relent, and the crowd leans forward, breath caught between awe and unspoken question. She stands there, heart beating a staccato of hope and fear, knowing that her next choice, embrace the call of her ancestors or flee from its demands, will shape not only her future, but the balance between the worlds of the ordinary and the extraordinary. So keep your eyes on the blossoming corridor of her story, because every turn unravels a new reveal. Secret shrines etched in attic shadows, friendships tested beneath fluttering petals, the fierce tug of history woven into the fibers of a single girl's soul. In this dance of adolescence and ancestry, the most surprising twists await just beyond the next blossom-laden breeze, promising that transformation is only the beginning of the adventure. In the glow of morning light, May awakens to the familiar ritual of her day. The soft click of her alarm, the rustle of sheets as she swings her legs out of bed, the careful arrangement of her school uniform, a crisp white blouse tucked into a plaid skirt, and the ritual application of her beloved lip balm. Her room, a kaleidoscope of mementos, bears witness to her passions. Posters of her favorite boy band, carefully scrawled fan art pinned above her desk, and journals filled with doodles of cherry blossoms drifting in the breeze. Today is no ordinary day. It is her 13th birthday, a milestone tinged with excitement and trepidation. Underneath her polished exterior, however, a tremor of anticipation lingers, an echo of ancient magic she cannot yet name. As she gathers her backpack, she carries more than textbooks. She bears the weight of familial expectations, adolescent hopes, and the first hints of a transformation that will shatter her world. She meets her best friends in the hallway outside homeroom. Miriam, brimming with quiet confidence and sketchbook always in hand, and Priya, whose laugh rings like silver bells and whose curiosity knows no bounds. Together, they navigate the currents of middle school with practiced ease, trading rumors of pop star crushes, debating the merits of the latest dance challenge on social media, and calculating how to squeeze in extra minutes of sleep before the final bell. At lunch, they claim their usual table beneath a skylight that bathes them in golden warmth. Over steaming bowls of noodles, they share whispered plans for the weekend. Starting a Bastion fan club, secretly recording themselves practicing the newest choreography, and debating how best to present their group project at next week's cultural fair. Amid laughter and shared selfies, May feels the first flicker of uncertainty, a tightness in her chest whenever her mother calls with reminders of proper conduct and family responsibilities. The afternoon brings music class, where the teacher announces a bonus assignment, a performance piece at the school's upcoming cultural showcase. May's heart flutters. This is her moment to stand center stage. She volunteers immediately, envisioning herself leading the choreography, her arms sweeping through the air like petals in a spring breeze. As she sketches out her dance moves in the margins of her notebook, she hardly notices the subtle warmth spreading through her cheeks or the odd sensation that her senses are sharpening, the faint metallic scent of the classroom air, the distant hum of the ventilation system, the soft murmur of students settling into their chairs. By the time the bell rings, May's mind buzzes with possibility, her hands tingling with energy she can't yet explain. That evening, at the family dinner table, the familiar routine unfolds. May's mother, always precise and loving in equal measure, steers the conversation toward the virtues of discipline and filial duty. Bowls of fragrant soup and steamed rice appear, their steam curling like whispered prayers. May's father offers gentle smiles, proud of her academic progress while sensitive to her creative spark. As May reaches for her chopsticks, her mother catches her hand in a lingering grasp. "Remember, my little blossom," she says softly, "our heritage calls us to honor our lineage." The words, meant as reassurance, strike May like thunder. She nods, forcing a smile, but inside, she wonders what it means to honor a past she barely understands, and what price she must pay for the freedom she craves. That night, unable to sleep, May retreats to her diary, the pages already crowded with hopes and sketches. She writes of the transformation she senses stirring within her, a restlessness she can no longer contain, a desire to break free from invisible bonds. She jots down cryptic notes, warmth in hands, dream of fur, heartbeats like drums, before drifting into an uneasy slumber. In her dreams, she dances beneath a cherry tree, petals swirling in slow motion as she twirls. Then, she feels her limbs shift, her silhouette expanding, and a soft roar escapes her lips. She wakes with a gasp, the pillow damp with sweat, her breath jagged. The room is still, yet the afterimage of fur and paws haunts her vision. She sits up, clutching the blankets to her throat, and for the first time wonders if her world has already begun to change. Morning light feels too bright as May steps into the school courtyard, her heartbeat a rapid tattoo. At the locker bank, she scrubs at her cheeks in the mirror-like metal, as though wishing to erase some invisible smudge. Her friends greet her, chattering about the lottery for performance slots, but May's words stumble. She reaches into her pocket for a hair tie, only to find her fingers brushing against something damp and soft. She jerks back, glancing around. No one seems to notice. Panic flares, but she forces calm, stuffing the tie back into her pocket and smoothing her hair. As the first bell rings, she lines up with the other students, every movement feeling both deliberate and strangely foreign. The hallways pulse with the footfalls of hundreds of students, an urgent symphony that somehow reverberates inside her chest. During homeroom, May's teacher, Ms. Yoon, announces that auditions for the performance will begin tomorrow and urges everyone to practice their routines. May's stomach twists. Her dance plan, the one she'd sketched with so much excitement, now feels distant, like someone else's dream. At lunch, she retreats to the art room with Miriam and Priya, hoping to lose herself in pencil sketches. Yet even here, the walls seem to close in, the paper's smooth surface trembling under her pencil. And when Priya playfully nudges her, May recoils unexpectedly, out of proportion to the gesture. Her friends exchange concerned glances, but May only masks her unease with a strained laugh, pushing her sketchbook across the table. The afternoon drags, every class a blur of whiteboards and lecture notes. That night's family lesson on ancestral guardians echoes in her mind. Her grandmother's voice, captured in a digital video call, speaks of the sacred bond between past and present. How, when a girl comes of age, she inherits the strength of their foremothers embodied in the spirit of the red panda. May's mother watches the screen, her calm facade betraying a glimmer of something fierce. May, however, feels only confusion, a thread of magic she cannot quite grasp, tugging at her spirit. As the video ends, her mother turns to her with a soft smile, brushing May's hair back from her face. "Soon you will understand," she whispers. But May's heart clenches. Understand what? And at what cost? The next morning, alarms shriek again, and May rushes through her routine with trembling hands. On the way to school, the cherry blossoms rain down like silent applause. She watches petals flutter around her sneakers, fascinated by their delicate drift. Then, without warning, her pulse hammers, her vision narrows, and she stumbles into a cloud of blossoms, only to collapse in a heap of petals. Classmates gasp, crowding around, but the world tilts as a warm tide surges through her. The edges of her uniform shirt wrinkle, the seams straining, and a sudden, soft mewl escapes her. Her friends push forms in front of her, voices calling her name, but May feels herself expanding, bones shifting, for sprouting, a small tail unfurling behind her. As her senses sharpen to a pink flowering world, she stares into her own widened eyes in a pool of spilled petals, realizing that the dreams she thought were figments have erupted into breathtaking reality. She scrambles to a deserted art room, her limbs now transformed into fluffy, reddish limbs. Breath heaving, she presses her paws against the glass-paneled door, watching the world swirl through the safety of her reflection. Her tail swishes with each heavy exhale, leaving a trail of scattered petals on the dusty floor. Panic claws her chest. How will she explain this to her friends, to her mother? The transformation hums beneath her skin, a living echo of promises made long ago. In the quiet of that room, she touches her new muzzle, feels whiskers tickle her cheek, and the wildness of her lineage roars in her veins. The room's pale light catches the sheen of her fur, and for the first time, she understands that she has become the bridge between past and future, human and guardian. As the lunchtime bell echoes down the halls, May peers through the art room window, spotting Miriam and Priya in the courtyard. She recalls their chatter about dance auditions, the excitement they shared, and the promise they made to stand by her. Summoning every ounce of courage, she pushes the door open with a careful paw, steps into the hallway, only to find herself face to face with her two best friends. Their eyes widen in shock, a red panda on two legs, school uniform crumpled at the shoulders, hair turned to tufts of fur. For a heartbeat, the world holds its breath. May's heart skips a beat, her tail swishes uncertainly, and then, in their stunned silence, she summons a soft, trembling hi. Miriam's mouth falls open, Priya's eyes fill with tears, and then laughter bubbles up, nervous, awed, and fiercely protective all at once. The three of them huddle in the hallway, hushed whispers tumbling between them. How did this happen, what does it mean, and how on earth do they keep it a secret until the festival? Behind them, the school day marches on. Bells clang, students hurry past, the promise of performance looms large. Into this swirl of ordinary life stepped something extraordinary, a living legend realized in bright red fur and human hopes. As May pulls her friends into an awkward paw-and-arm hug, her thoughts spiral with questions untold. Can she master this power in time? Will her friends stand by her when secrets fracture trust? And how will her mother react when the ancient legacy she whispered of blooms so wildly in her daughter's arms? The answers lie just beyond the next school bell, in the delicate balance between the world she knows and the magic within her heart, waiting to roar. The corridors of May's middle school thrummed with renewed urgency as she, for still warm from her transformation, slipped through the throng of students. In the first hours after revealing her red panda form to Miriam and Priya, the world had shifted its axis. Text messages pinged with frantic questions. Are you okay? Can you turn back? Do you need help? But May could only clutch her sketchbook stuffed with emergency hair ties and padded gloves, forging ahead toward the art room where the three huddled in whispered strategy. Plans tumbled out, distractions to cover her next shift, coded notes to teachers about bathroom trips, and promises to stand guard over her secret. In that cocoon of friendship, May felt the weight of destiny lighten just enough to breathe again. Afternoons passed in a tension-laced routine. May tiptoed through classes, praying that her new, thick tail would remain hidden beneath her desk as she copied notes. In music, she nearly shattered her clarinet on a squeaking note, a reminder that pandas don't play instruments, forcing her to step away until the library's soft hush could swallow her embarrassment. Homework sessions became covert operations, library corners stocked with spare sweaters, hallways where a quick brush of fur against a hand could be blamed on static. Meanwhile, in her home's attic, her grandmother's shrine waited in silence, draped in ancestral tapestries and lit by orange lanterns. May knew that soon she would have to return there, to confront the lineage she'd awakened. The cultural festival loomingly orchestrated its own crescendo. Posters adorned every hallway. "Celebrate our heritage," they proclaimed, framed by stylized cherry blossoms. Booths took shape in the gymnasium, origami cranes cascading from the ceiling, tables groaning under steaming stacks of baozi and mooncakes. May's group prepared a demonstration of traditional dance, blending modern beats with arm movements drawn from the panda's gentle sweep. Rehearsals became a crucible, testing her ability to fuse human precision with her newfound physicality. On the day a mission-critical patch of fur sprouted across her forearm, she had to improvise by slipping into an oversized wristband, her heart pounding as Miriam coaxed her through the steps. Through every stumble, literal and metaphorical, Priya's hand anchored hers, grounding her in friendship when the magic threatened to carry her away. But the true storm gathered at home, where May's mother sensed a change beyond simple adolescence. Over carefully arranged dinners, she watched May's eyes flicker at the mention of the shrine, saw the way her daughter lingered over drawings of pandas in the margins of her notebooks. "Is something troubling you?" she asked one evening, voice a soft melody of concern and expectation. May choked back the truth, managing only a nod as she excused herself for an early night. In the dim corridor, she hesitated outside her grandmother's shrine before slipping inside, the lantern light flickering across painted scrolls that depicted women of their family cloaked in red fur. A single scroll showed a girl transformed, dancing beneath a crescent moon. May read the ancient calligraphy, her breath catching. Her destiny had been written generations ago, and the time had come to fulfill it. That night's dream seized her like a whisper of warning. She stood beneath a towering cherry tree in full bloom, its petals swirling in an unforgiving wind. The matriarch of her family, her grandmother, stern and luminous, rose from behind the tree, eyes alight with both pride and sorrow. "You must harness the spirit," she intoned, voice echoing through the dreamscape. "Embrace who you are, or be consumed by who you fear." May reached out, but the figure faded into branches, leaving her alone with petals that burned like embers. She woke in a tremor of sweat, the shrine's lanterns glowing in solidarity. In the hush that followed, she resolved that tomorrow she would face the legacy on the festival stage. Morning arrived in a riot of color. May padded through her bedroom, the dawn light soft against her fur-tinged shoulders. She chose a wardrobe of layered skirts and oversized sweaters, hiding her tail and patching seams with practiced care. At breakfast, her mother looked at her with gentle firmness. "You have something important to share, don't you?" she said, spoon poised above a bowl of congee. May's throat tightened, the shrine's admonition burning in her chest. But as she opened her mouth, her mother's expression softened, and her father chimed in with a reassuring smile. "Whatever it is," he said, "we face it together." In that moment, the tension that had thrummed between them transformed into something like promise. Arriving at school, May felt every eye drawn to her, though none suspected the secret she carried. The gymnasium swelled with students in traditional attire, cheongsams and hanboks, kimonos and sashes, each garment a stitch in the tapestry of celebration. Lanterns glowed overhead, casting pools of warm light on the polished wood floor. On stage, the announcer called her group's name. Heart-pumping, May stepped into the center, flanked by Miriam and Priya in identical costumes. The drums began, a steady beat that thrummed through her bones, and she found herself moving, arms unfurling like petals, feet gliding across the floor in a dance that felt both learned and wildly instinctive. As the beat quickened, May felt warmth rise, her heartbeat syncing with the drums. Then, in a moment of breathtaking inevitability, the music swelled to a crescendo and the heat surged into her limbs. Under that flood of tempo and emotion, her costume stretched and seams popped, revealing a flash of rusty red fur. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. May froze, caught between human and panda, heart pounding with both terror and liberation. The drums fell silent, replaced by a hush so complete it pressed against her ears. She felt her grandmother's words echo in her mind and, summoning courage, took a single step forward. Fur rippled across her arms as she extended her paws to her friends, and a soft, resonant chuff, her new panda voice, trembled from her throat. In that taut silence, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then Miriam and Priya surged to her side, stepping into her space to form a protective circle. They raised their arms in solidarity, the three figures bathed in lantern light, a trinity of trust that transcended form. At first, uncertainty flickered across the audience, but then the crowd stirred. Adults whispered, children pointed, and some began to clap, tentatively, then growing in confident rhythm. The master of ceremonies, eyes wide with disbelief, stepped back to make room. As the applause swelled, May felt tears spring to her eyes, tears tinted not with shame but with something fierce and bright. She realized then that her transformation, feared for so long, was not a curse but a revelation. The lineage of guardians was not a chain that bound her, but wings that carried her. In the festival's aftermath, the school buzzed with talk of the red panda girl who had danced beyond fear. Journalists and smartphone cameras circled the shrine in the courtyard, capturing whispered interviews with teachers and friends. May and her mother walked the halls together, side by side, one human, one guardian, speaking softly about boundaries and acceptance. In the shrine's attic, they lit a single candle before the ancestral scrolls, mother and daughter entwined in an embrace that spanned generations. The lantern's glow flickered across their faces as they shared whispered vows to honor the past while forging a future where magic and adolescence could coexist. In the days that followed, May's life settled into a new rhythm. Transformations occurred with less panic. Tails twitched beneath oversized sweaters, ears sprouted beneath her school hat, and whenever the heat of emotion rose, she slipped away to a hidden corner to embrace her panda form. Her mother joined her there, guiding her through the rhythm of fur and bone, teaching her the ancient dance steps that honored their ancestors. Miriam and Priya remained her steadfast allies, sketchbooks and cell phones in hand to document every shift and scuff. And in the quiet moments, late nights spent pouring jasmine tea, mornings of secret laughter at mismatched paw prints on windowsills, May discovered that identity is not a cage but a canvas upon which to paint every shade of being. When summer's final cherry blossoms fell, the shrine scrolls glowed with the promise of new chapters yet unwritten. May stood before the tapestry of her lineage, each figure frozen in fur and wisdom, and felt the gentle tug of tomorrow's call. She had danced through fear and found herself whole, part human, part guardian, and entirely herself. The world beyond middle school corridors awaited, ready to surprise her at every turn, but May knew that with every heartbeat, every petal-rocked breeze, she carried within her the boundless courage of the red panda, and the unbreakable bond of those who stood beside her. In the soft glow of dawn, May Lee wakes to the gentle hum of her world, the rattle of chimes at her window, the faint steam of jasmine tea calling from the kitchen, the comforting weight of a pink bedroom plastered in posters of her favorite boy band. She is at once herself and something more, a bright-eyed 13-year-old teetering on the edge of childhood and the wild promise of adolescence. Yet beneath her ready smile and meticulous routine lies a storm of emotions she barely understands. Confidence and clumsiness spin together in her gait, curiosity and caution flicker across her eyes. Every new sensation, her heartbeat rumbling when she sees her first crush, the buzz of excitement. Confidence and clumsiness spin together in her gait, curiosity and caution flicker across her eyes. Every new sensation, her heartbeat rumbling when she sees her first crush, the buzz of excitement before a school performance, feels stretched taut by the weight of family expectations. In the mirror she trusts so deeply, she glimpses not only the face she knows but the shape of the red panda spirit that sleeps within her bones, waiting to bloom. Her mother, Ming, moves through her world like a lighthouse, steadfast, brilliant, and sometimes unknowingly blinding. As the architect of every detail in May's life, she wields love and discipline in equal measure, arranging each day's schedule with the precision of a master planner while infusing her cooking with the warmth of 1,000 embraces. In Ming's presence, May tastes pride and protection in every bite of perfectly steamed dumplings, feels the soft pressure of her mother's hand on her shoulder before school, and hears in her voice both encouragement and the unspoken weight of tradition. Yet Ming's very strength casts shadows. The fear of letting her down coils in May's stomach, the ache of never quite measuring up rests like an echo behind her laughter. Ming's eyes are always on the horizon, mapping May's path with unwavering faith, but in doing so, she may overlook the secret stirrings at her daughter's heart. Inside the attic shrine, framed by flickering lantern light, May's grandmother sits in quiet vigil. Her gaze carries centuries of wisdom, each crease on her face a testament to years of ancestors and unspoken stories. She is both guardian and gatekeeper, the keeper of scrolls that whisper of red panda spirits, the teacher of dances that echo through generations. Though her words are measured and few, they hold the solidity of bedrock beneath May's tremulous fears. To May, her grandmother is both mystery and sanctuary, a presence at once distant and deeply intimate. When she lifts her hand to brush May's forehead before sleep, it is an unspoken blessing and a promise. You are more than you know, and one day you will stand tall in the fur and power that courses in your veins. Miriam, the unflappable artist, sketches the world through a lens of perpetual wonder. In her notebooks, skyscrapers rocket into candy-colored skies, cherry blossoms whirl in gravity-defying spirals, and May's panda form stands sentry atop a moonlit roof. Ever poised, Miriam navigates the currents of middle school with serene confidence, her quiet voice cutting through noise with gentle clarity. She is May's anchor in every storm of emotions, the one who offers a tissue when fur tumbles from May's sleeves, the one who draws a secret map of costume patches to camouflage her transformation, the one who believes, wholeheartedly, in the magic shimmering beneath May's skin. In Miriam's steady presence, May tastes the sweetness of acceptance, a balm to the self-doubt that flares like embers whenever she senses her mother's expectations closing in. Priya, whose laughter rings clear as temple bells, carries curiosity as both shield and sword. She dives headfirst into every mystery. Ancient scrolls, viral dance mania, the secret of May's nighttime escapades, her eyes dancing with unquenchable fire. When May emerges in crimson fur, Priya's first reaction is a gasp of surprise, followed by a hug that ignites hope in May's chest. She quips and teases, yes, but never with malice. Her jokes are bright sparks meant to illuminate rather than sting. In the domain of friendship, Priya is both adventurer and protector, the one who scouts safe havens for May's transformations and who asks the questions no one else dares to voice. With Priya at her side, May feels the exhilarating rush of freedom, the knowledge that there is a friend who will chase her through every shadow, no matter how wild the truth. Devon, the boy band heartthrob incarnate, occupies a dream space at the center of May's fragile first crush. In art class doodles, his name loops in bubbles of pink and silver, and in May's daydreams, he sparkles like a pop music mosaic of grin and glitter. Yet when Devon finally steps onto the school stage, microphone in hand, the real boy emerges from the myth, shy in his swagger, earnest in his falsetto, a boy who catches May's gaze and holds it with gentle surprise. In his presence, May experiences a new twist of adrenaline, a secret swell of warmth that tangles with her panda power. Devon's smile, as he offers her a half-curled note asking for her number, becomes a rite of passage. She learns that affection can be both thrilling and terrifying, that to open one's heart is to stand on a precipice with no net below. Ms. Yoon, the homeroom teacher, embodies the calm eye in May's ever-shifting storm. With her measured cadence and patient smiles, she offers guidance without judgment, nudging May towards self-discovery with subtle prompts. A question about cultural heritage here, an invitation to lead a classroom dance project there. In her lessons on history and literature, May detects a hidden message, that identity is a tapestry woven from both tradition and personal choice. Ms. Yoon's encouragement comes not as a directive but as an offering, a quiet recognition that May's path may differ from any before her. And in the gentle warmth of Ms. Yoon's approval, May feels the first sweet breeze of self-acceptance. Across the years of the family line, the red panda spirit pulses as more than an ancestral gift. It is a crucible of every woman's fear and hope. To some, it is a blessing of strength and fierce protection. To others, a tether of obligations that burn like a branding iron across tender skin. When May's grandmother reveals the scrolls that chart the lineage of panda guardians, each image becomes a mirror reflecting the weight of legacy. Warriors dancing beneath full moons, mothers cradling furred daughters, sisters standing on wind-swept cliffs. May's heart clenches as she absorbs the beauty and burden interlaced in each stroke of ink. She learns that to inherit power is to inherit choice, the freedom to embrace it or the risk of being consumed by it. Throughout these relationships, May's journey of self-discovery unfolds like a cherry blossom's bloom, delicate, urgent, and suffused with both wonder and fragility. In the first stirrings of her transformation, she wrestles with the desire to belong and the terror of standing apart. When she ducks behind gym bleachers, her heart pounding as she morphs, she tastes both fear and exhilaration, each heartbeat a testament to the strange alchemy of adolescence. As patches of fur sprout across her skin, she must decide whether to hide behind hastily applied sweaters or to stand in the lantern glow, showing the world her full, unabashed self. The climax on the festival stage crystallizes every thread of her relationships. There, under lantern light and the stunned hush of an audience, May's leap into her red panda form becomes both revelation and release. Miriam's steady support, Priya's fearless cheer, Devon's shy encouragement, Ms. Yoon's blessing, her mother's faltering acceptance, and her grandmother's ancestral pride blend into a chorus of love that holds her aloft. In that moment, May's heart swells not just with newfound power, but with the realization that identity is not a lonely path but a mosaic of every hand that reaches out in greeting, every voice that says, "I see you." The roar of the crowd is not the sound of spectacle alone, but the echo of a young girl's journey to claim her true self. The roar of the crowd is not the sound of spectacle alone, but the echo of a young girl's journey to claim her true self. By the time the final petals swirl across the gymnasium floor, May stands at the threshold of two worlds, human and guardian, child and woman, and she does so not in fear but in fierce exhilaration. Each character who has shaped her road, mother, grandmother, friends, crush, mentor, reveals a facet of what it means to grow into one's power while holding on to the love that shapes us. Their stories intertwine with hers, creating a tapestry of self-discovery that glows with the warmth of shared truth. In every laugh and whisper, every tear and victory, we see the timeless arc of adolescence played out against a backdrop of wonder. And in May's final triumphant dance beneath cherry blossoms aflame with possibility, we glimpse the joy that comes when we step into our fullest selves, unafraid, unhidden, and embraced by every story that brought us there. They began scouting locations in Vancouver's Chinatown long before cameras rolled, lured by the vibrant murals and hidden back alleys that shimmered with nostalgic charm. The production team, fresh off early design meetings, wandered past battered tea houses and overgrown courtyards, searching for the perfect marriage of old-world Asia and modern North America. It was here, under strings of paper lanterns swaying in misty autumn air, that the filmmakers discovered the soul of May's world, a place where tradition and adolescence collided. As the crew mapped out shooting zones, they were startled to find real community celebrations underway, lion dancers weaving through the very streets the team planned to transform into May's neighborhood. Rather than chase them off, director Domee Shi seized the serendipity. Those real drummers and multicolored costumes became the heartbeat of Turning Red's festival sequences, lending authenticity that no set designer could replicate. On the first day of principal photography, the cast and crew gathered before a converted school built in 1926. Its brick facade, once a justice center, would double as May's high school. The halls were narrow, lockers creaked, and the entire building seemed to groan under the memories of decades of students. Animators and storyboard artists huddled in the gymnasium, where dim overhead lights glowed above a sea of cots and equipment. Suddenly, a distant echo, a rhythmic thunk, reverberated through the corridor. Some blamed a loose basketball in the rafters, others whispered of the building's restless spirit. Yet, when production resumed, the same sound punctuated takes of classroom banter, unplanned but eerie enough that editors wove it into the film's ambient hum, a subconscious reminder of the protective weight of institutional walls. Casting brought its own bewitching tales. Rosalie Chiang, the newcomer who would voice May, was discovered through a routine open call at a local community theater. When she first read May's lines, an awkward promise to her best friend, she stumbled not over the words but over an uncanny empathy. As she delivered the dialogue, animators noted a spark in her voice, a perfect blend of youthful earnestness and latent strength. What the crew didn't know was that 3 days before her audition, Rosalie had been secretly coping with her own sudden growth spurt, her mother's insistent pep talks about embracing change echoing in her ears. That raw well of emotion infused her performance, and when she mimicked May's signature panda-melt squeal, the entire room melted along with her. It was magic born of real teenage tremors. In remote BC forests near Squamish, the sequences of May's red panda form dancing through woodland shadows faced an unexpected challenge: reclusive bears. The production's visual effects supervisor, Steve Emerson, had arranged helicopter shots to capture heavy evergreen canopies. Yet pilots radioed back frantic word of a bruin roaming the ridges below, drawn by stray food wrappers from overnight campers. Rather than cancel, Shi incorporated the bear warnings into the film's lore, stories of ancient red panda guardians warding off woodland spirits. Animators later added flickers of bear light, soft amber glows in the forest scenes, paying homage to those untamed encounters and reminding viewers that nature's guardians wear many forms. Perhaps the strangest production story unfolded around the voice actors' group kitchen table. As principal cast members gathered for recording sessions, the catering team served steaming bowls of Mom's homemade chicken congee, Ming Li's signature dish, down to the gingery sparkle of green onions. After a week of takes, the studio realized they had ordered 9 identical vats of congee for a cast of 5, insistent that Lee cook like for like. As the voice actors giggled through takes spiced by their own bowls, the sound engineers recorded not only lines but the slurps and sighs of comfort. In post-production, editors decided to layer those authentic eating sounds beneath key scenes of May and her mother sharing breakfast. Audiences took note of the film's visceral warmth, unaware that every spoonful came from a real congee marathon. Wardrobe design demanded unusual experiments. May's pink windbreaker, emblazoned with her favorite boy band's logo, began life as a custom jacket hand-stitched by costume designer Kirsten Cunningham. She sourced lightweight nylon from a defunct outdoor brand, painting the band's emblem by hand. On test runs, actors complained of static cling, fur and fibers refusing to coexist. The solution arrived in the form of an industrial anti-static spray more commonly used on car interiors. The day the spray rig arrived, a hush fell over the crew as fur coat and nylon jacket met in anti-static bliss. No clumps, no sparks, only the promise of seamless animation. That hidden technical tweak became the unsung hero of every fur-to-cloth transition. In the final cut, sound editors faced their own alchemical challenge, capturing the perfect panda squeal. Early takes ranged from adorable squeaks to high-pitched yelps that frightened interns. The breakthrough came when Foley artist Maya Thurman recorded her twin toddler playing in a pile of autumn leaves. One delighted shriek, equal parts surprise and glee, so captured the essence of May's panda outburst that it became the core of every transformative OMF moment. Layered over subtle panda growls recorded from zoo archives, low-frequency hums of animal care routines, those childhood shrieks built a sound signature both playful and powerful. The film's color palette emerged from a serendipitous meeting with local florists. As Sher and cinematographer Jamie Smith pitched cherry blossom pinks and jade greens, they visited a Japanese garden where plum and sakura trees intermingled. The blooms were too delicate to capture on camera. Petals fell too fast, but one florist offered freshly dried petals to press between glass panels. That texture became a motif in the animation, ephemeral patterns drifting in transitions from school corridors to dream sequences. In post-production, the digital petals fluttered across screens, evoking the transience of adolescence and the quiet forge of memory. The box office campaign leaned into these oddities. Teaser posters featured a single lacquered chopstick balanced on a lacquer box, hinting at Ming Lee's culinary precision, while early trailers emphasized the congee slurp. The film's box office performance reflected this global embrace. It opened modestly in mid-size markets but flourished through word-of-mouth and social media virality, ultimately securing a place among Pixar's most enduring hits. Analysts pointed to its cross-generational appeal. Teenagers resonated with May's hormonal roller coaster, parents found echoes of their own childhood rituals, and fans of animation marveled at its technical innovations. Annual reports highlighted its profitability in emerging markets, where its universal themes of family and identity transcended language barriers. Yet beyond dollars and cents, its real triumph lay in the countless theaters where spontaneous standing ovations broke out, signs of a story that struck chords deeper than any marketing forecast. In retrospectives at animation festivals, the production's quirkiest nuggets found new audiences. Anecdotes about anti-static wardrobe hacks circulated in panels on costume design. Tech demos showcased the hybrid fur rendering pipeline as a milestone in efficiency. Oral histories recounted the early morning sessions in Chinatown that set the film's visual DNA. Behind-the-scenes featurettes compiled footage of voice actors sighing into bowls of congee, animators dancing under frost-tipped sakura blossoms, and Sher herself sketching notes on napkins during late-night drives back from location scouting. These artifacts became part of the film's lore, a reminder that magic in movies often blossoms from the most ordinary moments. Shared lunch breaks, wet sketches, and the wild collision of creative spirits under Vancouver's gray skies. As the closing credits roll and the final strains of the score fade, viewers carry with them more than a story of a girl and her panda self. They leave with images of petals dancing across city streets, echoes of a voice cracked with adolescent longing, and the knowledge that every frame bears the fingerprints of a community bonded by curiosity and care. The film's creation, woven from countless hours of hand-drawn notes, digital fur tests, family recipes, and spontaneous dances, stands as a testament to the alchemy of collaboration. In every pixel of May's fur and every note of her mother's sigh, one hears the chorus of hundreds who dared to dream that adolescence, with all its chaos and wonder, could be toasted with bowls of steaming congee under a sky of cherry blossoms. The dawn light in May's bedroom arrives softly, a pale wash of pink and gold that drifts through sheer curtains patterned with dancing cherry blossoms. Her walls, plastered with posters of her favorite boy band, glow like stained glass in that morning haze. In these early moments, the room itself feels alive. Her desk piled with fan art seems to pulse with the energy of yesterday's sketches, the little shrine to her stuffed red panda perched on the windowsill as if watching over her slumber. The camera lingers on these details, a slow, intimate push-in that invites us to share the hush of pre-dawn, the sense that childhood worlds are built from the small wonders we arrange around ourselves. Every shade of pink, from the blush of her blanket to the rose of her bedroom carpet, speaks of innocence and impending transformation, setting the emotional tone before a single word of dialogue is spoken. Downstairs, the Lee family kitchen breathes a different light. Warm tungsten bulbs glow over the breakfast table, pooling honeyed warmth onto wooden surfaces. The steam from simmering jasmine tea curls through the air, captured in delicate streaks of soft focus that float between May and her mother. When Ming Lee's hands move to ladle congee into bowls, the camera cuts to close-ups of porcelain rims and polished chopsticks, each metallic click anchoring us in the ritual of family. In these lingering shots, the world outside fades away, the hum of the city is reduced to a distant murmur, and the kitchen becomes a sanctuary where expectations and affections intertwine. Here, director Domee Shi and cinematographer Jamie Smith use light and lens to shape an atmosphere of comfort laced with underlying tension. Every warm glow carries the weight of anticipation, every shadow beneath a cupboard door hints at secrets waiting to surface. The family home's attic shrine emerges as a world apart, where shafts of afternoon sun pierce through small triangular windows and hit scrolls painted with red pandas in gentle slashes of ink. A low-angle dolly tracks across wooden floorboards scarred with age, each creak a ghost's whisper, before settling on the altar. Candles arranged in concentric circles, ancient calligraphy curling like smoke on the wall. The cinematography here shifts to cooler hues, subtle blues mixing with the flickering amber of candlelight to evoke a realm suspended between past and present. The shrine's hush is scored by minimalist percussion and distant wind chimes, the sound design weaving an oral tapestry that underscores the weight of lineage. As May steps closer to those scrolls, the camera rotates in a slow arc, suggesting the circular nature of heritage. No straight line, but an ever-spinning dance of duty and discovery. At school, corridors stretch out in long, static wide shots. Lockers line the walls like sentinels, and fluorescent lights hum overhead, bathing everything in a slightly sickly pallor. The wide lenses accentuate the building's geometry. Hallways that seem to recede into infinity, doorframes that confine the characters in neat rectangles of light. In contrast, handheld cameras swoop in close when May's emotions flare, capturing the tremble of her lips or the quick glance of her eyes as she hides fur beneath an oversized sweater. These shifts in camera technique, a static wide to anchor us in routine, a handheld close to zoom in on interior turmoil, mirror her journey between conformity and upheaval. Subtle rack focus shifts draw attention to small disturbances, a stray petal drifting through a window, a pencil dropping to the floor with a hollow tap, the tail end of a hushed conversation that leaves May wide-eyed. The box office campaign leaned into these oddities. Teaser posters featured a single lacquered chopstick balanced on a lacquer box, hinting at Ming Lee's culinary precision, while early trailers emphasized the congee slurp. Social media buzzed with videos of fans attempting the Panda Melt Squeal Challenge, an unofficial echo of the voice actor's bowl-induced outbreak. Interactive installations at theaters offered visitors samples of jasmine tea and mochi, sprinkled with edible pink petals. The film grossed strong numbers in test markets that embraced its blend of heartfelt comedy and cultural specificity, proving that authenticity, down to the slurp, could sway audiences around the world. In Vancouver's winter chill, the crew constructed a mock temple shrine in a shipping container studio. Art directors installed plywood calligraphy scrolls, flickering lantern replicas, and incense racks beneath a hydraulic crane. On the first day of shrine scenes, the team accidentally triggered the crane's hydraulics, sending lanterns swinging like pendulums. As bells clanged and crew ducked, Cher shouted, "Cut!" only to laugh and say, "Perfect, chaos is tradition." Animators preserved a few swaying lanterns in the final frames, an homage to the set's own spirited defiance of order. Even the promotional premiere held its own odd surprises. Dress code suggested sakura pink, but attendees arrived in a kaleidoscope of florals. Inside the screening room, pockets of pink smoke blew across aisles as scented candles warmed cherry blossom oils. As May's panda reveal lit the screen, ushers released live flower petals from the balcony. A mid-air gust carried them to the front row, tickling audiences with whispered fragrance. Laughter and applause merged in collective delight, blurring the boundary between spectator and story. That bloom of blossoms became the signature moment of the premiere, a living echo of the film's floral heart. In the months since release, fans have dug deeper into the production's peculiar lore. Easter egg hunts online detail the cameo of a stray dachshund that wandered onto a background street scene. Podcasts dissect the anti-static wardrobe trick and the third-floor bear warnings. Cosplayers replicate the hydrophobic windbreaker splash tests from behind-the-scenes reels, for intact, water droplets rebounding. Cultural scholars cite the film's authentic use of kanji slurps as a tribute to communal rituals. And Ming Lee's recipe, penned by the catering team, circulates on food blogs, each instruction punctuated by a parenthetical note, based on actual film production menu. Through every unexpected twist, lion dancers at a location recce, kanji gluts in the catering tent, anti-static wardrobe miracles, toddler shrieks repurposed into magic, the film's heart emerges, a tapestry woven from the real, the weird, and the wonderfully human. In the end, these strangest facts are not mere trivia but reminders that behind every frame of animation lies a story of chance encounters, creative problem-solving, and the collective heartbeat of a team determined to honor life's wildest transformations. Like cherry blossoms dancing across the screen, these moments of serendipity remind us that the most memorable details often bloom in the spaces between the planned and the unexpected. In the hush before the first blossoms fall, the narrative takes a decisive turn, revealing the story's beating heart beneath a canopy of pink petals. One of the film's most significant moments unfolds in the cramped privacy of May's attic shrine, where she confronts her grandmother's ancient scrolls for the first time. Here, the camera holds close on her trembling fingers, tracing the inked lines that speak of generations of red panda guardians. A narrow beam of golden light filters through a high window, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air. Critics have noted how this sequence crystallizes the film's thematic core, heritage as both anchor and crucible. The subdued sound design, a gentle creak of wooden floorboards, a faint rustle of aged paper, amplifies the solemnity of May's discovery, inviting viewers to feel the weight of ancestral expectation settling on her shoulders. In that charged silence, the film asks, what does it mean to inherit power, and at what cost must a young heart pay to wield it? As May's transformation accelerates, the film stages its most potent critique of adolescence itself. The midpoint scene in which she, fur-red and wide-eyed, navigates the school corridors captures a universal truth. Puberty is an unpredictable metamorphosis that reshapes both body and identity. Cinematographer Jane Park employs a shallow depth of field to isolate May against a blur of hurried classmates, every frame a rush of motion that mirrors the pangs of growing up. Critics applaud this visual strategy for its empathy. The world pulses around May in distorted crescendos, and her own heartbeat becomes the film's rhythmic anchor. Editing choices, rapid cuts between May's widened eyes, her first trembling panda paw, and the spray of fallen cherry blossoms, echo the fragmented sense of self that accompanies the teenage years. Reviewers have remarked that these transitions do more than convey plot. They evoke the emotional vertigo of sudden change. In the film's third act, the cultural festival sequence emerges as a microcosm of its emotional resonance. Under lantern-lit beams, May and her friends take the stage, a trio of teenage girls poised on the brink of revelation. The music swells into a playful fusion of traditional drums and electronic pop, underscoring the film's thematic interplay between heritage and self-expression. When May's costume begins to tear, revealing her fur and her fear, the world around her dies down to a single hushed note. Critics have lauded the timing. By withholding the transformation until this pivotal moment, the filmmakers heighten both shock and empathy. The collective gasp of the festival audience, drawn from extras and real community members, merges with May's own breathless revelation, creating a moment of shared catharsis that lingers beyond the screen. This festival reveal also sparked widespread debate about representation and authenticity. Some viewers questioned whether the fantastical red panda transformation diluted the film's cultural specificity, while others praised it as a bold metaphor for the messy alchemy of identity. In forums and think pieces, commentators pointed to the film's careful balance of detail. Ming Li's precise kanji recipes woven into the narrative, the accurate depiction of a multi-generational immigrant family, the respectful nods to Chinese-Canadian communities, as evidence of its rooted authenticity. The transformation, they argued, transcends literal folklore to embody the crosswinds of adolescence and cultural inheritance, making May's unique burden a lens through which all viewers can examine their own ties to family and self. Beyond its central metamorphosis, the film's quieter moments have drawn critical admiration for their emotional subtlety. The early scene in which May's mother teaches her to use chopsticks becomes a meditation on maternal love and expectation. The camera lingers on the slight tremor in May's fingers as she balances a single grain of rice, and on the soft encouragement in her mother's gaze. As critics have noted, this domestic vignette lays the groundwork for the film's deeper exploration of mother-daughter dynamics. The push and pull of nurturing and control, the tender friction between care and constraint. The soundscape here is minimalist, only soft kitchen ambience and the click of porcelain, allowing the emotional subtext to bloom unimpeded. When the cataclysm of transformation threatens May's friendships, the film shifts its tone to a vibrato of comedy and heartbreak. The sequence in which Miriam and Priya help May camouflage her fur under layers of mismatched clothing unfolds in brisk, affectionate montage. Yet as laughter fills the editing suite, a single close-up interrupts the levity, May's eyes glistening as she realizes the burden of concealment. Critics have praised this tonal pivot, observing that the film's ability to weave humor and pathos is its greatest strength. It refuses to flatten adolescence into one-note angst or whimsical fantasy, instead embracing the messy chiaroscuro of teenage life. Audience response to these moments has been fervent. At midnight screenings, teenagers have erupted in cheers when May's friends stand by her side, forging a bond stronger than any secret. Parents, conversely, have found themselves choking back tears at the shared kitchen scenes, recognizing their own hands guiding younger ones through life's trenches. In post-screening Q&A sessions, many viewers have recounted whispered confessions, a mother admitting she once hid her own insecurities behind a perfect dinner spread, a teenager revealing the comfort they found in seeing their tumult mirrored in May's journey. These testimonials underscore the film's emotional architecture. It builds bridges between rainbow-lit memories of childhood and the fog of coming of age, inviting every generation to find its reflection in the lantern glow. Academics have taken note, too, weaving the film into broader conversations about representation in animation. Articles in cultural journals have explored how the film's blend of specificity, set in Toronto, voiced by a predominantly Asian-Canadian cast, infused with diaspora experiences, enriches mainstream animation. They argue that May's narrative, while fantastical, offers a template for future storytellers to root their dreams in real-world complexity. In symposiums, scholars dissect the film's use of magical realism not as mere spectacle but as social commentary. The red panda's dual form becomes an allegory for the hyphenated self, navigating multiple cultural demands with every pulse of power. In the months following its release, the film's thematic resonance has rippled through spaces far beyond cinemas. Mental health advocates have cited May's journey as a metaphor for adolescent anxiety and transformation, using her story in workshops that encourage teens to embrace change rather than fear it. Dance studios have choreographed their own versions of her festival routine, blending traditional movements with pop steps. Culinary schools have added the film's kanji recipe to their curricula, teaching students the comfort role of food in cultural identity. Each time the film's images reverberate in these new contexts, it underscores its core message, that personal metamorphosis, strange, messy, breathtaking, can illuminate the shared contours of human experience. Criticism has not been silent, however. Some pundits have questioned whether the film's final resolution, familial acceptance and festival triumph, feels too tidy, too neat for the tangled reality of coming of age. They point to real-world teens whose families do not grant such immediate grace, wondering if the narrative leaps too quickly from fear to celebration. In response, defenders argue that the film's genre commands a certain arc, a hero's journey that, while respecting nuance, must satisfy the cathartic promise of transformation unlocked. The film's creators have acknowledged these tensions in interviews, noting that while the story is rooted in personal truth, it also embraces the mythic structures that give fairy tales their universal power. Indeed, the film's embrace of archetype, girl meets magic, girl resists magic, girl becomes magic, carries a lineage stretching back through centuries of folklore. Yet its specificity, shaped by the lived textures of Chinatown markets, the coded jokes of teenage chat, the delicate rituals of family meals, elevates it from timeless parable to living document of a moment. In classrooms, students compare May's arc to classical myths, mapping her stages onto ancient heroes. Critics writing for animation journals chalk the film's success to this dual fidelity, a tender homage to old stories and a revolutionary step toward stories that mirror our diverse realities. As the final credits roll, the strings of the closing score linger, a simple piano melody suffused with light tremolo, underpinned by subtle percussive taps that echo the rhythm of fur paws dancing across bamboo floors. The image of May and her mother standing beneath a single cherry tree, lantern light shimmering around them, remains etched in memory as a testament to reconciliation and renewal. In that hush, the film's emotional resonance crystallizes. Transformation is not a solitary triumph, but a shared symphony of every voice that sings us into being. It is this capacity, to honor the intimate tremors of family and the grand leaps of magic, that secures the film's place in both popular affection and critical discourse. It invites us to celebrate our own hidden shifts, to find in meandering cherry petals the promise of growth, and to remember that behind every rush of adolescence lies the ancient echo of beings who danced between worlds. In the interplay of these events, the attic shrine's revelation, the corridor of sparks, the festival's roar, the hushed embrace beneath lanterns, the film offers a mirror for all who stand at life's thresholds, urging us to step forward, fangs bared, into the transformative dawn. They arrived in Vancouver before dawn, the city's neon glow still clinging to rain-slicked streets as the art directors and location scouts piled into rental vans. Their mission was deceptively simple: find the everyday corners of Canada that could stand in for May's Toronto neighborhood. But as they crept down quiet alleys lined with centuries-old brick and ducked into hidden courtyards where cherry trees bloomed in April's chill, they realized authenticity would demand more than just a pretty backdrop. It required patience. Broken sidewalks were patched with layers of hand-mixed plaster, faded graffiti was repainted in ghostly pastel hues to echo the film's palette, street signs were swapped out for bilingual versions, capturing the cultural mosaic of May's world. On the morning they discovered a perfect row of family-run bakeries with pastel awnings. The owner greeted them with steaming croissants and maple butter tarts, a treat that left animators awash in sugar-fueled enthusiasm for weeks. Back at Pixar headquarters in Emeryville, the story team gathered around long tables strewn with sticky notes in every shade of pink. Domee Shi, standing before a massive storyboard wall, traced her finger along a sequence of early sketches. May's first sight of the mystical red panda scrolls, her tentative steps as she learns the secret dance, and the crowded expanse of the cultural festival. Each drawing was taped in chronological order, a delicate choreography of frames meant to capture the film's blend of humor, heart, and a touch of the surreal. As the team debated the emotional beats, Shi's voice sailed over the hum of discussion. We need that moment to breathe. Let her feel both the warmth of her mother's love and the sting of her own fear. Minutes later, story artists pinned new sketches, May's hand fluttering over her heart, her mother watching from the kitchen door, and the room hushed in shared recognition of a moment that would anchor the entire second act. Meanwhile, the voice recording studio hummed with youthful energy. Rosalie Chiang, barely 14 when she landed the role of May, stepped up to the mic in oversized headphones that made her look like a tiny pilot navigating a storm of soundproof panels. Her script lay open on the pollen-yellow music stand, every line penciled with notes about tone, a higher pitch for exhilaration, a softer lilt for confession, a small gasp for surprise. As she spoke the first lines, "Mom, do you think I'm normal?" It felt like a breeze had swept through the labyrinth of her own anxieties, stirring in Chiang an empathy so raw that the engineers whispered, "Cut!" long after her final word. They knew they had captured more than a voice. They had captured a pulse, the very rhythm of a girl's heart on the brink of transformation. That same week, the animation department wrestled with an unusual challenge: how to render fur that felt both lush and manageable, expressive but not distracting. Rendering every strand of red-orange fur in full 3D would have crippled render times and risked a look more woolly mammoth than panda. The answer came from a junior technical director who suggested a hybrid approach: group fur into clumps with directional guides that allowed each tumbly twitch to convey personality. On a Friday afternoon, the entire department crowded around a single monitor as the first test clip played. May's red panda form twirling through cherry blossoms, each clump of fur catching highlights and shadows in a dance of color. The room erupted in cheers and high-fives, a rare moment of communal triumph in the solitary craft of coding and rendering. But not every triumph arrived without mishap. During a week of outdoor shoots on the grounds of a botanical garden, animators and artists fanned out to photograph real cherry blossoms for texture reference. A sudden downpour soaked them to the bone, sending cameras sputtering and artwork fluttering like petals in the wind. The horticulturists on staff, originally alarmed by the intrusion, soon joined in with umbrellas and steaming mugs of tea. By the end of the day, drenched artists and gardeners alike stood under a glass atrium, sharing stories of plants shaped by season and climate. It was an unplanned cross-pollination of worlds, and as the editors later sifted through the soaked photos, they found in each raindrop a fresh layer of authenticity, the tiny beads that lent each bloom a dose of lived-in magic. In the recording booth, a separate drama unfolded: the search for May's mother's voice, that perfect blend of warmth and authority. Sandra Oh, acclaimed actress and veteran of both stage and screen, tested hundreds of lines, each take a tapestry of nuance. On one evening session, she improvised a single sigh. "Ah, Mei Li, you always keep me on my toes," that crackled with a mother's exasperation and affection. Director Sher paused the session, eyes bright. "That's it," she said, trembling with relief. "That's our voice." The next morning, the entire sound design team used that sigh as a cue, weaving its echoes into the film's oral palette. It became the unseen heartbeat of May's home, a soulful punctuation to every echo in the Lee kitchen. Meanwhile, the composers faced their own mountain, scoring a film that flits from slapstick glee to reflective hush in the span of a heartbeat. Launchpad McQuack, known for his orchestral wizardry in both blockbusters and indie triumphs, assembled a small ensemble in a high-ceilinged studio. They experimented with merging traditional Chinese instruments, guzheng, eru, with modern synth flourishes and percussive elements drawn from pop music. The day they coaxed a warm cello swell under a plucking guzheng riff to bridge two contrasting scenes, everyone in the room felt the film's emotional panache come alive. It was as if the notes themselves took May's pulses, her transformation, her fear, her exhilaration, and translated them into a language that needed no subtitles. Back on the Pixar campus, test screenings invited audiences into a world still in flux. Rows of students, parents, and critics squeezed into screening rooms, munching on popcorn spiked with edible pink confetti. At the first gasp of May's panda reveal, the audience stilled, then erupted into a wave of laughter and cheers. But at the questions that followed, was May's struggle relatable? Did you feel her mother's expectations? The auditorium fell into thoughtful quiet. Focus group notes scrawled in margins: more time needed in the shrine, song choice during dance could be stronger, end credits should hint at future adventures. Each note sparked heated debate among the creative leads, an exercise in balancing narrative urgency with emotional clarity. The final cut integrated many of these insights, refining pacing and deepening character beats that might otherwise have fallen through the cracks. And then there was the phenomenon of the film's domestic and international theatrical campaigns. Marketing teams seized on the film's unique blend of adolescence and family lore, producing street-side murals in Vancouver's Asian districts. Giant pink blossoms framing May in mid-dance, her panda tail swirling like a calligraphic stroke. Social media influencers posted their own panda transformations, using simple filters to mimic May's fur, flipping videos of themselves dancing through confetti to the film's theme song. On location, the converted warehouse that doubled for May's school corridor became a microcosm of the production's quirky energy. Between takes, actors and animators mingled under rows of hanging fluorescent lights, comparing impromptu sketches of red panda ears and debating whether the corridors should feel infinitely long or cozy enough to hide a secret tail. One afternoon, a production assistant found a pair of discarded earmuffs rumored to resemble panda ears, and within minutes, half the crew was donning them, wandering the corridors in slow-motion panda patrols, until the director reappeared to capture the moment on a hidden camera. Those candid clips ended up in the blooper reel, a testament to how the film's spirit thrived where planning gave way to playful improvisation. Voice sessions were another unexpected nexus of collaboration and delight. When Sandra Oh, cast as Ming Lee, arrived in Emeryville, she refused to record her lines in isolation. Instead, she insisted on sharing the booth with Rosalie Chiang for every mother-daughter exchange, wanting to hear May's doubts in real time and respond with genuine warmth. Engineers rigged a second mic and sat between them, capturing the ebb and flow of conversation as though it were a live family dinner. The emotional authenticity of those sessions proved invaluable when Oh made a single exasperated May Lee. After a line about lost chopsticks, the entire room laughed and wept in the same breath. That spontaneous moment became the inspiration for the film's signature maternal refrain, grounding comedic chaos in real affection. Not every day flowed so serenely. During a week of outdoor shoots in a cherry orchard near Langley, a freak April hailstorm pummeled the delicate blossoms just hours before filming the festival's key tree transformation scene. Crew members scrambled to shield camera lenses with rain covers and rigged tarps over petals deemed prized branches for close-ups. Art directors dried and rehung countless blossoms using low-temperature heat lamps set up amid the boughs. By dawn, the orchard looked as if it had survived an enchanted squall, and cinematographer Jamie Smith seized the moment, capturing beads of water clinging to each petal, refracting sunlight like tiny prisms. That impromptu effect lent the festival's opening shot a dewy, ethereal quality, echoing the film's themes of beauty forged through adversity. Deep inside the animation wing, a machine room filled with towering render nodes hummed with the weight of thousands of overlapping frames. As technicians monitored heat gauges and processed overnight renders, a trapdoor in the floor panel, a leftover from earlier modular designs, kept popping open, spilling cables and causing tripped alarms. After 3 nights of near meltdown, the head of IT scrawled a warning, "Beware the panda's lair," and taped a plush red panda to the panel. Engineers laughingly decorated the surrounding area with "Do not feed the panda" signs. When the render farm's power draw finally stabilized, the myth of the render panda had spread across Pixar, framing even technical fixes as part of the film's mischievous charm. Wonky sound effects sometimes tested the patient spirit of the Foley team. Tasked with creating May's panda feet padding on wooden floors, they first tried creaking bamboo sticks, then taped sneakers, then old leather gloves. Nothing quite conveyed the mid-weight springiness of tiny panda paws. Finally, a Foley artist remembered childhood afternoons stomping on layers of wet autumn leaves under a cork floor panel, his feet sinking slightly with each step, an auditory texture both soft and satisfying. That technique paired with a light suede brush slipped into mittens produced the final effect. When the first community test audience heard May's panda scuttle across the dojo floor, they erupted in delighted surprise, an organic proof that ingenuity often lies in the smallest recesses of memory. Stunts for the festival dance sequence presented their own intricate puzzle. Instead of motion capture on professional sound stages, choreographer Mona Akhtar insisted on building a miniature stage in the courtyard where the animators could observe real dancers practicing beneath strings of lanterns. Local dance students clad in pink tutus and panda ear headbands learned the routine, half contemporary, half traditional ribbon dance, while animators perched on folding chairs took reference videos from every angle. On the night of the full cast shooting, stunt coordinator Carlos Mendez, himself a former troupe dancer, stood at the edge of the real stage, guiding actors through the steps so their simulated counterparts could mirror genuine momentum. That layer of authenticity informed every frame, ensuring that May's final twirl in panda form carried the weight of human rhythm and ancestral homage. Meeting the demands of COVID-era safety added another chapter of challenge and creativity. Initially, the plan called for large ensemble vocoder sessions, but shifting health guidelines forced each voice actor to record in isolation booths, connected only by screened video calls. Where once the performers had shared tea and bantered in person, now they greeted each other with improvised sock puppets and remote applause. Sound engineers spliced in artificial room tone to mask booth differences, but it was the actors' ingenuity, exchanging encouraging emojis in the chat window, sharing background photos of their recording spaces, that preserved the warmth of communal performance. When Ming Lee's voice boomed over the final festival sequence, it felt like a triumphant chorus of resilience, both on-screen and off. Even the marketing department found itself improvising fairs under the film's banner. When theatrical releases in Asia coincided with real-world cherry blossom festivals, promotional teams partnered with city governments to hang oversized posters along blossom-lined promenades, each one printed on translucent fabric that fluttered around street lamps like floating petals. Festival revelers snapped selfies beneath the banners, often unaware they were cosplaying for a Pixar release. Social media buzz amplified those images, and by the time the film opened, theaters reported lines wrapped around city blocks, as if May's story had leapt off the screen into early spring celebrations worldwide. Finally, when the last formats were mastered and the film embarked on its global voyage, cast and crew gathered for a farewell panda party in Emeryville. Tables groaned under platters of sushi, bao buns, and, of course, congee, each buffet station decked with plush pandas wearing miniature caps reading, "We made it." Animators swapped tales of late-night render battles, directors toasted long-forgotten Hail Mary passes on tough scenes, and voice actors delivered impromptu readings of favorite jokes from the script. As laughter echoed beneath Pixar's curved ceiling, it felt less like an ending and more like the first day of a new season, one where the film's many surprises, challenges, and shared triumphs would bloom in the hearts of audiences around the globe. In every story told that night, one truth emerged, that the magic of making movies lies not only in the world we see on screen, but in the worlds we build together behind the scenes. Under the blush of early morning, petals tumble like whispered secrets across May's bedroom floor, each delicate flake a portent of the transformations to come. From the very first scenes, the film weaves a tapestry of change. Cherry blossoms herald both the sweetness of new beginnings and the fragility of what cannot last. In May's world, these petals are more than mere decoration. They are messengers of adolescence, drifting on currents of laughter, heartbreak, and unexpected growth. As they swirl around her yawning form, they set the stage for the film's central theme, that life's most profound transitions often arrive softly, disguising the tremors they will leave in our hearts. Beneath that floral veneer lies the more turbulent undercurrent of identity. May is heir to a legacy encoded in ancient scrolls, a lineage of red panda spirits who embody both fierce protection and untamed nature. This duality, human and guardian, tradition and freedom, echoes in every frame. When May first stumbles into the attic shrine, the camera frames her against rows of ancestral portraits, the faces of women who once danced beneath full moons in panda form. Their painted eyes seem to follow her as she reaches for a scroll, and in that moment, inheritance reveals itself not as a gift alone but as a summons. The scroll's faded ink bears the weight of expectations. Honor the past, carry its power. Yet May's trembling hands suggest the burden of forging her own path, even as the old stories hum with promise. At the heart of her journey lies the alchemy of family dynamics. Ming Lee, the architect of Meyer's world, stands as both steward and sentinel, a mother whose love is unwavering but whose standards are etched in tradition. Their relationship is a delicate dance of care and constraint, rendered with cinematic precision. Kitchen scenes glow with golden warmth, the clang of chopsticks against porcelain underscored by steady camera pushes that draw us into the Lee's home hearth. In those moments, the setting itself becomes a metaphor for maternal devotion. steady, nourishing, yet bound by rituals that can tighten like a noose. When Ming's voice, sharp with worry, cuts through Mei's excitement, the lighting shifts to cooler tones. Shadows lengthen along the walls, hinting at the fears that lurk beneath her mother's protective embrace. Friendship blooms in counterpoint to that maternal bond, a theme the film nurtures with equal care. Miriam and Priya stand on either side of Mei, their loyalty a living tapestry of empathy and shared mischief. In the flush of school hallways, where fluorescent lights cast claustrophobic beams, handheld camera work stakes out their solidarity. Laughter ricochets off lockers as they brainstorm hiding spots for Mei's transforming pajamas, each burst of giggles a symbol of camaraderie that defies the isolating currents of puberty. Their friendship is not a mere backdrop but a lifeline, an altar of acceptance on which Mei can lay down her fears, even as her body sprouts fur and her emotions erupt like sudden storms. The red panda herself emerges as the film's most potent symbol. In human guise, Mei struggles with ordinary teenage angst, crushes, grades, parental lectures. But when she blooms into her panda form, fiery red fur, oversized paws, expressive ears, those struggles take on cosmic resonance. The transformation sequence itself is a visual poem. Petals swirl, colors saturate, the world tilts into slow motion as Mei's human frame expands into that of a mythical creature. It is both horrifying and exhilarating, capturing the paradox of adolescence, the thrill of newfound power entwined with the terror of losing control. Time dilates, sound distorts, and Mei's first panda roar echoes like both a battle cry and a confession of vulnerability. In that roar, she claims her ancient inheritance even as she grapples with its demands. Symbolism extends beyond the supernatural to the everyday rituals that anchor Mei's life. The morning bowl of congee is more than breakfast, it is communion, a testament to maternal care and cultural continuity. Steam curls from the bowl like ancestral spirits ascending, and each spoonful carries the warmth of home. The congee's sticky texture becomes emblematic of the ties that bind Mei to her lineage and her mother's love. Yet, when Mei drains that bowl with a trembling hand on the cusp of transformation, the congee's comforting pull clashes with the wild currents rising within her. The camera holds on the bowl's empty depths, a visual echo of Mei's newfound hunger, hungry for independence, hungry for self-discovery, hungry for a destiny she can shape. School dances and stages function as crucibles of identity, where personal expression collides with the spotlight's glare. When Mei rehearses her performance routine with trembling confidence, the classroom's geometries, locker-lined walls and tiled floors, feel both imprisoning and exhilarating. Wide shots capture the choreography's symmetry, while close-ups freeze Mei's face in moments of uncertainty, each bead of sweat a diamond of emotion. As the festival's lanterns glow overhead, the stage becomes a liminal realm where heritage and selfhood intersect. The lantern light casts warm folders against Mei's panda form, transforming her wild shape into a creature of both myth and empathy. In that lantern glow, she stands at the nexus of every expectation placed upon her, ready to claim or reject each one with a single pause. First step cinematography amplifies these themes through a symphony of color and composition. Daytime sequences in the family home spill with honeyed tones, ivory walls lit by tungsten and pastel pinks that mirror Mei's rosy cheeks. Nighttime scenes drape the world in indigo and amber, the interplay of practical lights and LED accents crafting an atmosphere at once thrilling and eerie. Cherry blossom petals, captured in slow-motion CGI, drift across frames like living brushstrokes, tying every setting, bedroom, school, shrine, festival, into a unified visual poetry. The petals carry symbolic weight. They are both fragile and tenacious, fleeting and enduring. As they swirl around Mei during moments of change, they remind us that transformation, like spring's arrival, demands both surrender and celebration. Editing furthers this symbolic tapestry, pacing scenes to mirror Mei's emotional cadence. During her confident morning routines, cuts are rhythmically precise: alarm clock, toothbrush, tea, breakfast. But as she nears transformation, the editing breathes and expands. Long takes capture the tremors in her hands, jump cuts reflect her racing thoughts, and lingering shots hold her mother's concerned gaze. The festival's climactic reveal unfolds in a mosaic of cross-cut shots, petals tumbling, lanterns shuddering, May's shrug into fur, and then slows to a heartbeat-long freeze frame on her wide-eyed expression. That momentary pause says everything the film's dialogue cannot. The world stretching itself to accommodate the unexpected, the vibrant tension between human life and the ancient power that thrums beneath the skin. Sound design threads through each symbol, finding resonance in everyday noise. The click of chopsticks echoes through kitchen scenes, a percussive reminder of ritual. Hallway footsteps and locker slams swell into an ambient roar, mapping May's social anxieties onto the school's acoustics. In contrast, her panda squeals, crafted from layers of childlike shriek and animal recordings, pierce the soundtrack like bursts of wild color. The click of chopsticks echoes through kitchen scenes, a percussive reminder of ritual. Hallway footsteps and locker slams swell into an ambient roar, mapping May's social anxieties onto the school's acoustics. In contrast, her panda squeals, crafted from layers of childlike shriek and animal recordings, pierce the soundtrack like bursts of wild color. When those squeals overlap with the rustle of petals in midair, the film captures the moment where internal and external worlds collide, the primal roar of identity asserting itself in defiance of conformity. Underlying it all is the theme of balance, between duty and desire, heritage and selfhood. Ming Li embodies duty in every measured gesture. The strict morning schedules, the insistence on proper posture and polite speech. May embodies desire in her doodles of pink-bloomed trees, her whispered crush on Devon, her restless pulse of freedom. Their final embrace beneath the festival's cherry arcs, when mother and daughter dance together in panda form and human form, lays that balance bare. In that golden lantern glow, they forge a new ritual, one where tradition and transformation coexist, where expectations become invitations, and where love becomes the dance that carries both of them forward. Returning to the school's empty corridors after the festival, the camera pans across fallen petals clinging to lockers, chalk-streaked floors, and silent echoes of laughter. In that hush, the film's greatest symbolic truth emerges. Every setting, from the family kitchen to the school stage, is a mirror for the transformations within. Cherry blossoms fall, congee warms, lanterns glow, and May's heart beats in rhythms both ancient and brand new. In the interplay of these elements, the blossoms that mark time, the panda that claims power, the shrine that shelters secrets, we find the film's emotional resonance. That to grow is to bloom and wilt and bloom again, each phase a petal in the great story of becoming. They arrived on set before sunrise, slipping past closed studio gates in the hush of early morning as though intruding on a sleeping city. The soundstage was already humming with quiet activity. Grips adjusting scaffolding, riggers checking lights with ritual care, and art department members repainting set walls in perfect gradients of pink and cream. Here, in this cavern of steel beams and plaster facades, the world of Turning Red would come to life frame by frame. From the first whispered instructions to the final camera cut, every technique they employed would shape not only the story on screen, but the emotional pulse that would carry May's journey from a hopeful sketch on a storyboard all the way to theaters around the globe. In the earliest days of production, storyboarding reigned supreme. Domee Shi and her team huddled around sprawling white boards, each panel a freeze frame of May's life, dreamily illustrated moments of her morning routine, the tentative steps into her grandmother's attic, and the breathtaking spiral of transformation beneath cherry blossoms. They sketched and re-sketched sequences until every beat felt alive, every shot balanced between intimacy and spectacle. The boards guided the animators like a North Star, ensuring that when the digital cameras finally rolled, each scene would unfold with the precise emotional cadence that the story demanded, a slow build of anticipation, sudden rushes of fear, and euphoric releases that echoed the pangs of teenage revelation. As the first voice takes were recorded in the echoing hollow of the sound booth, a different kind of technique came into play. Rosalie Chiang, her teen voice quivering with authenticity, delivered May's youthful exclamations alongside Sandra Oh's steady, loving firmness as Ming Li. But rather than isolating each performer behind soundproof walls, the directors insisted on shared sessions wherever possible. Engineers rigged multiple microphones in adjacent booths linked by glass windows, so that mother and daughter could play off each other's energy in real time. When Mei's voice cracked with surprise at her first panda sighting, Ming's response, a gentle admonishment, followed in the same breath. Those sessions captured something intangible, a mother and daughter negotiating trust and fear in a single exchange. Later, during editing, those perfectly timed vocal overlaps became the film's emotional anchor, ensuring each line carried the warmth and tension of genuine family dynamics. Meanwhile, the animation pipeline embraced a hybrid approach to fur rendering that would become nothing short of revolutionary. Traditional Pixar fur techniques could produce luscious, realistic coats, but at the cost of crippling render times. The technical directors devised a system where individual strands were grouped into directional clumps, each guided by control curves that responded to character movement and airflow. They layered coarse shapes for volume, then overlaid finer wisps for realism. The result was a red panda coat that rippled and glowed without bank-breaking render costs. During tests in the lighting stage, animators watched in awe as fur caught lantern light and moonbeams alike, shifting from fiery orange to deep auburn in a single swirl of the tail. These tests determined not only the final look of Mei's panda form, but also inspired key narrative decisions, such as the sweeping twirl that becomes the climactic reveal, knowing the visuals would match the raw emotion of the story. Cinematography, too, found new expression in this animated domain. Cinematic principles of lensing and camera movement were translated into digital terms. The director of photography, Jamie Smith, worked hand in glove with the layout team to craft virtual camera rigs that mimicked the sweeps, dollies, and handheld shakes of live-action film. In scenes of domestic calm, the camera glided like a Steadicam, lingering on the warmth of a shared bowl of congee, the soft light on Ming Li's gentle smile. But in the moment of Mei's first panda bloom, the lens flipped to a frenetic handheld style, jittering, shuddering, echoing the tremors of Mei's own transformation. These digital camera techniques lent an immediacy and grit to the animation that invited audiences to feel each heartbeat, each gasp, embedded within every frame. Lighting design worked in tandem with camera movement to amplify mood and tone. Soft, warm tones dominated interior scenes. The golden glow of tungsten lights cast pools of comfort in the Li kitchen and Mei's bedroom, underscoring the film's themes of familial warmth and tradition. At school, fluorescents spit cold light across lockers and hallways, crafting an atmosphere of disciplined routine. Night scenes were bathed in contrasting blues and ambers, moonlight filtering through gaps in rooftop pipes, hibachi lanterns flickering amber over festival crowds. In the digital lighting stage, gaffers and animators collaborated to dial each hue, each shadow edge, until the emotional effect was unmistakable. They tested dozens of variations to land on the perfect balance, ensuring that every scene's color palette was an unspoken character in Mei's story.